Hello! I hope you're having a great time. Time? Well, that's what we're talking about today. We are talking about time. You might think of time when you see a clock. And you might think of time when people ask, what time is it? Like, is it 9 a.m.? Is it 9 a.m.? Time for a Zoom meeting? Or is it maybe it's, let's do 6:30. Maybe it's 6:30 and it's time to clean up after dinner. I don't know, but we have these different things like clocks to help us keep track of time. Your clock might not look like this. Maybe your clock looks different, or maybe you use something like a phone or the time that's written on the tablet, but you can use a clock to measure time. We use time to measure small things like seconds or minutes or hours. Hours are a lot longer. Like if you watch a movie, it's probably over an hour long, but they're not huge, right? Then there's days. You know what days are. Days, from like when the sun's up and the sun goes back down and it's nighttime. That's a day. We have a day is 24 hours. So yeah, seconds, minutes, hours, and days. Those are some small words that we use to measure small amounts of time. What if we want to measure some of that medium amount of time? Like if you have a couple of days, what do you call it when there are 7 days? That's called a week. And we have a song for that. You probably remember it. Days of the week. 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 There's Sunday and there's Monday. There's Tuesday and there's Wednesday. There's Thursday and there's Friday. And then there's Saturday. Days of the week. 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 All right, so we have days and weeks. What do you call it when you have a couple of weeks together, like 4? Well, those are called months. And we like to look at months on calendars. It helps us keep track of what we're going to do throughout a month. You might have a calendar like this at home where your mom or dad keeps track of days you have appointments or different things like that. So this is a calendar, and calendars help us keep track of months. We have a song for months too. Do you know the song? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. These are the months of the year. Oh dear. Okay, so we have days and weeks and months, and those are all inside of a year. A year is 12 months. In a year, you can have like one birthday. You only get your birthday one time a year, right? In a year, you'll have things like Christmas comes only once a year. In a year, you change schools every year. Not change schools, change grades. So you're in kindergarten for 1 year, and then you're in first grade for 1 year, and then you're in second grade for 1 year, and on and on. So those are each called a year. We have a special word for a decade. That means 10 years. This is a special word to mean 10 years. Decade. Do you know anybody that is 1 decade old? Maybe somebody who's about 10? That person is a decade old. Well, I'm not a decade old. I'm a little more than 3 decades old. That means it's like a group of 10, right? So that's 10, 20, 30. I'm a little more than 30 years old, so I'm 3 decades old. Maybe you can ask your parents how many decades old they are. You're not a decade old yet. You're not even 1 decade old. But you can ask your parents and see how many decades old they are. Century. What what's this word? Well, it means 10 decades or 100 years. That is a lot of years. Do you know anyone who is a century old? I don't. But my grandma is almost a century old. She's almost 100, but not quite. So these are some new words you might not use as often. I think everyone uses the word year, but decade is a new one, and century. My first graders are familiar with these things. We use these to do place value when we're practicing in math. But you can think of a year as being one of these ones. You could think of a decade as being one of these 10 rods, or a group of 10. So this is a year, this is a decade. And then if you want to think of a century, it would be one of these big flats. That's 100 years, or 10 decades. All right, now you know about year and decade and century. It's time to learn 3 more words. You ready for the last 3 words? These are my favorite vocabulary words for today. It's the word past. What happened in the past? Past is the word to say anything that's happened before now. So in the past, I taught you about the words year, decade, and century. That's the past. It already happened. Ooh, in the past, I became your teacher. In the past, you were born. We can keep going back. We can go back further. In the past, your grandparents were born. In the past, dinosaurs lived on Earth. The past can talk about something that happened just minutes ago, or something that happened centuries and centuries ago. Past is a great word. Do you want to see a picture of me from the past? This is Mrs. Luce from the past. Hey, that's past. Let's do present. Present is another word that talks about time, but instead of it talking about things that happened before, it's talking about things that are happening now. So in the present, I am blinking my eyes. Woo. In the present, I am wiggling. In the present, I am sitting still. Do you want to see a picture of me from the present? Well, let me take you one for you. Okay, there we go. Look, it's a picture of me from the present. It's right now. How cool is that? That is the present. Future. Future is what's going to happen. Maybe next week you have a doctor's appointment. That is in the future. Maybe after dinner tonight, you will help your mom clean the table off and help your dad do the dishes. That would be the future. Maybe when you grow up, you're going to be a firefighter. That is the future. Now, we don't know exactly what will happen in the future, but we can make plans for the future and get ready for the future. This is the word future. Do you want to see a picture of me from the future? Just kidding, that's not me. That's just a cartoon. You can't have a picture from the future, can you? Because that's the future. It doesn't work that way. We can't tell what's going to happen in the future. So we have the words past, present, future. I hope you enjoyed learning about time today. I will talk to you again soon. Bye, everybody.